one of the things that I would do if I were the mayor of the city, and my goal was to ensure that New Orleans could be the best that it could be, I would implement youth advisory councils in every aspect of government, I think. That's one way to like engage communities, because parents, they're at work. Kids, they go to school and then they're expected to just be at home all day. Well, let's incorporate them into society more. I think that's one way to do it.
There is a need for the city of New Orleans to have a direct hand in the education system and systems for our city, because it is the duty of the city to care for all of the citizens, and not just the voting public, but that means that our children should be cared for in the way that they are cared for in family. Not because they bring in income, but because they have to be cared for in order for us to have a good future. So if I were mayor, I would make that one of my priorities instead of one of the things that someone else can do.
And to really look at investing in our future, in our young people. So that means we really need to start with fixing the education system, right? And it's not just the education system, so I think education is just one thing, but young people spend, say like 8 hours a day, right, in school, but then they still have to go home to a community. So if the communities are still broken, then we're only fixing one piece of the puzzle. So I think one of the things is it's really difficult to answer that question, because I think, there's so many factors that are at play with the livelihoods and the standard of living of people in New Orleans. But I think definitely is to look at a different way of how we deal with this idea of justice in New Orleans, especially when a vast majority of folks who are incarcerated are African American. We still have the only, functioning plantation in the world to imprison, black folks. So that's the first change I would do. And then the second is to look at how we can restructure our education system.
I'd focus on the schools, because the problems we have are not more police. The problems we have are not more developments, although both of those probably help. But what's going to help in the long term is teaching our kids and nurturing our kids, making them excited, making them smarter than we are. That's what I try and do.
Exactly. So I think that we need to educate them, give them activities to do. Like my son, he tells you this is an adult city. There's Bourbon Street, there's the museums, there's all this adult activity. There's not enough activity for youth. There's nothing we could do here. And I had to think about that, and he was right. There isn't anything a teenager could do here. Our kids are the ones that's going to be continuing to rebuild New Orleans or destroy it. And we have to invest in them.
Right. Schools were in my community. So if there was an issue, my mother could walk from her home to the school. She could be there for little events that went on. She could be there. She could show me. My community could then support me. And the school was such a part of the community. When we wanted to do things, we went to the school. We played on the school playground. The new schools that are being built, they're locked up at 3 o'clock. We have to redevelop a focus of community and neighborhoods and empower these children, empower them through education, stop them from walking on lines in the school, preparing them for the line that leads them to prison.
When I think back to my time working at Rethink as an educator, I had the opportunity to be in a lot of different middle schools, a few high schools, and some elementary schools. And a lot of those schools were trying to be different, but one thing that was common among all of them is that they were very punitive. They had a lot of zero tolerance measures. Kids were in detention a lot of times. And I'm talking about kids who are seen as smart kids, or kids who are seen as the kind of bright, new ideas, those kind of kids that you want to see in your classroom. But regardless of some of the skills or some of the things that you saw in them, a lot of these schools still employed some of these zero tolerance practices that I see kind of permeate throughout the city. For example, they would institute this whole level 1, level 0, kind of like indicative of prison culture. You'll see kids walking on lines and tape to get to one class from the next. And I'm talking about in high school. I'm not going to call specific schools out because I don't think that's beneficial, but I do think we need to call out that specific culture so that we don't recreate it throughout the city.
And the other thing that's really changed that is more permanent is we've attracted so many young people who came here because there was opportunity and adventure, and it's really neat to have so many people here who want to help and who have outside opinions. You know, New Orleans can be a little stodgy. It's part of our charm, but you need that mix of the stuff that shouldn't change and the stuff that needs to change. And so I think we're getting that mix a little bit.
And I'm always concerned about the children of New Orleans. I don't want them to get lost. I don't want them to not have what they deserve. So I think that there should be far more focus on the challenges of the children and making sure that we're creating a future city for them.